welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Tina Jha. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said on Sunday that GST exemption to domestic supplies and also commercial import of COVID drugs, vaccines, and oxygen concentrators would make these items costlier for the consumers. She said the manufacturers would not be able to offset the taxes paid on imports. She was responding to West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, who had earlier written a letter to Prime Minister Modi seeking exemption from GST and customs duty on any donations of oxygen concentrators, oxygen cylinders, cryogenic storage tanks as well, and also COVID-related drugs from different organizations and agencies. And the finance minister in her reply informed that these items are already exempt from customs duty and health cess, adding that integrated GST is also exempted on all COVID relief material imported by the Indian Red Cross for free distribution across the country. So on this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the finance minister's statement, try to simplify it for our viewers, and also try and understand from experts the taxation structure on import of vaccines, drugs, and other medical equipment. Joining me on the program are two distinguished panelists. Let me introduce them to you. I'm joined on the show today by Mr. A.K. Bhattacharya, Editorial Director, Business Standard. Thank you, sir, for joining us on the program. And Mr. Sunil Garg, tax expert. Mr. Garg, thank you very much for sparing time for us. Mr. Garg, let me first try and understand from you the current tax structure. For the benefit of our viewers, it will be easier for us to understand what the current tax structure on COVID vaccines and other items is in the country at the moment, on which essential items, also like medical equipment, the drugs, on which exemption has been sought by Mamata Banerjee and several other states as well.
Okay, Tina, let us first of all understand, at present, vaccine for the domestic supply, they attract tax of 5% GST and 12% on the other related items like oxygen, like concentrators, etc., etc. But as you rightly said, because in GST, we have a seamless credit of system, credit of input. You get the credit of what you have paid at the time of purchases. And now suppose if the vaccine is taxed at 0% or these all items are for the commercial supplies are taxed at 0%, then what will happen? The manufacturer will not be able to get the credit of the taxes he has paid on the input cost, on the purchases. Then what will happen? He will not be able to pass on that input credit to the patient, to the consumers. And finally, it will lead to the increase in the price of that. For example, if suppose 100 is the price of a vaccine and you are charging 5% at the tax, but you are getting the 18 rupees or 12 rupees as the credit of the input cost, and it will result into the reducing the cost, reduce the price of the vaccine. That is why Madam Finance Minister has already said that we have already exempted, but as far as the import of the vaccine is concerned, because there are two components for the import. One is the custom duty and another is of the IGST. Madam Finance Minister has informed on 3rd May, they have notified that all the COVID related supplies, if they are for the free distribution and is imported for the free distribution by the Red Cross or some state agency or some nodal agencies which has been certified by some state government or nodal agencies or some even the organizations which are into the free distribution, both IGST and custom duty has already been exempted. So this is the structure. So we cannot reduce or we cannot make the vaccine at zero price or zero tax rate.
Okay, Mr. Bhattacharya. So when the COVID-19 drugs and related items have already been exempt from import taxes, the finance minister has clarified it yesterday. What are the kind of relaxations that the states are then talking about, or they are seeking that these exemptions be granted? What implications will it have if full exemption from GST is granted?
Well, I think, the demands or requests for such exemption, they have arisen from an imperfect understanding of the way the GST structure has been created. As Mr. Garg rightly pointed out, that in the GST system, there is something called an input tax credit, which a manufacturer or a producer of goods and services can claim which is actually the difference between the taxes that you have paid in the intermediate stages of production and the final tax that you pay at the time of your final product. Now, a vaccine maker makes a lot of, incurs a lot of cost in, for example, on antigens, on stabilizers, on antibiotics, and preservatives, and even when he transports the vaccines from one place to another on a very air-conditioned situation. So a supplier is there. That tax is 18% right now. So he pays a lot of tax at the intermediate stages. But if he has paid more tax on these intermediate stages of production, and the end product is being sold at a tax of 5%, then he gets a refund. Now, unfortunately, the GST system is such, if the final product becomes zero, then the manufacturer cannot claim the tax refunds on the intermediates that he has incurred. In the sense that if Mr. Adar Poonawalla has paid some taxes on the stabilizers or the antigens or the antibiotics or the preservatives or the air conditioning transportation system he may have used, he will not be able to take advantage of those tax set-off against the final price, because in the final price is zero tax. So this is the complex GST structure that does not allow abolition of the tax at the final stage, because if you do that, then you are likely to lose the input tax credit benefit. Now, having said that, let me also say that there has been, a demand at various fora where why should the final product be taxed at a rate which results in input tax credit or a set-off of that order. In other words, should it not ideally be a revenue neutral kind of a thing? In a sense that if your total taxation is 20% incidence, then the final product should be ideally be taxed at 20%, so that there is a clear set-off. There is no extra cascading effect. Now, clearly, the vaccines, particularly at 5%, it seems to suggest, from what the government has said, that the taxes that are paid at the intermediate stages are probably more than the 5% tax that you pay at the final product stage. So there is probably a need for some sort of a tax rationalization to make it less of an issue than what it is now. Because ultimately, neither the governments nor the consumers will understand this very complex logic that why is it that if we abolish taxes, the cost of the manufacturer will go up. So ideally, it should be a revenue neutral rate. And that is the challenge, and that probably can be addressed only in a GST Council meeting, which probably may be scheduled soon. So that issue may come up.
Okay, so how these challenges...
That's a complex situation and the complex structure of GST.
Yes, so whether these challenges are something that are going to be discussed by the GST Council, what is the best way to tackle it, is something that I'll come back to you, Mr. Bhattacharya. But at the moment, what's being discussed, what's being there in the news everywhere is that the center, in a way, is the main beneficiary. A narrative is being sold then that the center has become the main beneficiary and much is not being devolved to states. So, Mr. Garg, if you could help us understand how much is accrued to the center, what percentage goes to the states of these collections?
Tina, in GST structure, we have a 50-50 ratio, 50% SGST, state share, and 50% central government share. And out of the central government share, again, the state get the due share of their taxes as allotted by the Finance Commission. So in a nutshell, state gets 70% of the taxes collected and 30% remains with the central government. So this is absolutely a false statement that central government is benefited by these taxes. Secondly, I want to add what Mr. Ashok Bhattacharya said. In case of IGST, even if there is an inverted duty structure, and if you are paying higher taxes as IGST on the import, you have every right to get the refund of that amount. If all the taxes are not adjusted against the supply, because the IGST is 18% and tax is 5%, then you will get the refund of 13 rupees. You can get the cash refund from the government of India, meaning thereby that ultimately the price to the customer or to the patient will be lesser. So where is a question of any controversy here? I couldn't understand. It's merely a political stand. Because either we have not understood the circular issued by the notification issued by the government on 3rd May, or we are not trying to understand it.
Okay. So you say
let me address this question that you have raised. Yes. It's a very important question, and I agree with Mr. Garg that the center does not stand to gain in any way, because remember that the GST structure is a destination-based tax. So let us say we have got two large manufacturers of vaccines in the country. One is located in Pune, in Maharashtra, and the other is located in Hyderabad, in Telangana. Now, when they supply vaccine to the rest of the country, now this is to be settled through an IGST system. Now, wherever the vaccine goes and gets consumed, that state is actually receiving the tax, and there the IGST rate is split between the center and the states, and in the ratio that Mr. Garg referred to. So if you have a large vaccine market, like for example, Uttar Pradesh, now you will be collecting more taxes and the states will therefore get more taxes. If you are Maharashtra, you will not get, you will get the more taxes. So depending on the consumption of vaccine in each state, the collection will be more or less.
Okay, Mr. Bhattacharya. So when opposition parties, for example, one of the Congress leaders in Rajasthan went on to say that due to various taxes on COVID vaccines, the state government has to bear an extra burden of 3,000 crore rupees. Is this merely a political statement or a misunderstanding of the GST structure, or is there some merit into it?
I think there is misunderstanding of the GST structure. And I don't, the states are in a sense entitled to have a lot of to have complaints about the manner in which the money is shared, the delays that may take place. But in principle, the GST structure is such that the revenues are shared on a computerized platform run by the GSTN, and there may be delays, there may be disbursement of the state GST dues, there may be delays in the distribution of the IGST collected between the state and the centers, but the money that is due to the states cannot be held back for long. So the state will not eventually lose that revenue. So I don't see any reason for the states to worry. Instead, what the state should actually demand is that why not the vaccines be made free? And the states and the center collaborate to make the vaccines free. Now, even if you make the vaccines free, remember, the GST issue will still remain an issue. Because when you are making vaccines, you are paying a lot of taxes on the intermediate goods. Now, when you are making it free, then you have this question of who is making it free and at what stage, and who will be paying the final rate of tax. So I think this is a very complicated and complex issue, and politicians very often ignore the intricacies of a taxation structure and level these kind of charges either way.
In fact, not just during the current times where we are dealing with this COVID pandemic, the larger debate also by several other groups, by several other organizations, Mr. Garg, is that why should life-saving drugs or vaccines be under any kind of taxation? And that's the question that even the common people ask, because because of the lack of tacit understanding of the tax structure that we are talking about. So the larger debate, what is the answer to this question that when people have to import life-saving drugs from other countries, why should they be under any kind of taxation at all? Or can the government do something about it?
Tina, let me answer your second question first. As far as the taxation structure is concerned, there are three components. One is the custom duty, health cess, and then the IGST or GST, whatever it is. And fortunately, on third May notification, government has already exempted custom duty because you are not getting the credit of the custom duty. You are not getting the credit of the custom duty. Hence, the government has already exempted the custom duty from the import. Now, custom duty is exempt for all the life-saving drugs related to COVID-related material. As far as your first question is concerned, take the case of the API or the oxygen. It is not for the COVID-related only. API is used throughout the manufacturing of the drugs. You cannot make the drugs so free, or if no duty is being levied on that. For example, if custom duty is not levied on the API or custom duty or any life-saving drug, then what will happen? We will get a cheaper import from so many countries like China. Already it was happening, and then it will affect our domestic manufacturer because we cannot compete the price with those China manufacturer or some other manufacturer. That is why the custom duty is being levied. So this is the reason you cannot blatantly give the exemptions to all the drugs or all the manufacturers. Specifically, government has already exempted the COVID-related drugs used or oxygen concentrator or API formulations. Everything already been exempted.
Okay, so what the government does at the moment is maybe not during the COVID times, but during the normal times, does it consider exemptions on a case-to-case basis?
Yeah, government already consider it on case-to-case basis. Custom duty rates are decided on the keeping in view the manufacturer interest, domestic supplies also. As I said, if the custom duty is being reduced or it is exempted, then it will adversely affect the local manufacturer.
Dr. Acharya, coming back to you. So you earlier on spoke about certain challenges that the GST Council needs to address. How do we expect the GST Council to take on these challenges, to discuss them, and what, according to you, are some ways in which these can be tackled?
Well, the major challenge that the GST Council will have to face is that even though when the GST was rolled out in July 2017, the idea was that the revenue neutral rate for the center and the states under the GST structure would be around 14%. Now, as a result of some duty cuts and rationalization and reduction, but not compensated by increases in other items, what we are now seeing is the revenue neutral rate has come down to around 11%. Now, in my view, this is happening because of such cases, like where the input tax credit, the set-off is more than the duty to be paid in the final product. So I think the GST Council has to tackle this very serious issue that if you cannot raise the revenue neutral rate to the accepted and recommended rate of 14% from 11.5% that you have come down to, I think there is a problem of the states having adequate revenues, and so is the center, which is going to be short of revenue. So you have to have a system in which there is no cascading of taxes, granted, because GST prevents cascading of taxes, but at the same time, it should not lead to a situation where the input tax credit and the set-offs become so high that the revenue neutral rate comes down by 3 percentage points. So the big challenge would be to make sure that the end product or the end service rate is such that it neutralizes the impact of the taxes that a producer pays at the intermediate stages, but does not lead to an excessive kind of refund. The kind of refund that is now raising concerns that the price of vaccine may actually go up if you reduce the vaccine duty to 0%.
Yes.
Because the intermediate stage of duties will be more, and the companies will be ending up paying more by way of intermediate taxes because they cannot claim the set-off. So I think that's a very, very important challenge. And the larger point is that the GST as a system must be such that the payment of taxes should be simpler, should be easier, and you talked about that why should life-saving drugs be taxed? In my view, that if the hospital services or life-saving drugs, if they are taxed under the GST system, you will be surprised to know that the manufacturers of those life-saving drugs or the provider of the hospital services, they themselves want to come under the GST net. Because they come under the GST net, they get the benefit of those set-off. So it's a catch-22 situation. If you keep them out of the GST net, then you end up increasing the tax incidence. But if you bring them under the GST tax net and do not address the input tax credit problem of the set-off being more than the final tax rate, then you have a problem of revenue loss for the center and the states. So the GST Council will have to tackle both these challenges in a holistic and a comprehensive way.
Okay, Mr. Garg, so quite a complex structure which needs to be simplified. How do you see this happening? And first of all, is there a need, according to you, to simplify this structure?
Of course. And I do agree with Mr. Ashokji that there has to be a political consensus on that. In the last 4 years, after the inception of GST in July 17, we have gone a long way. Now the GST collection is almost increasing, and last month it was 1.4 lakh crore rupees. But the need of the hour is, as Ashokji suggested, that all the political parties should sit together, should have a consensus, like it was in the Arun Jaitley time. There was a consensus, and a lot of things which are out of the purview of the GST has to be come within that purview, so that a seamless credit should go, and all the services, they should come under the GST regime, and the input taxes, input credit should not be wasted. And it will be the benefit of the consumer also at that stage, that we get the cheaper price for the goods and services.
Okay, so the complex structure needs to be simplified and there should be a seamless process, is what both our panelists are suggesting. With that, I have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you once again to both my guests for joining me on the program, sharing your perspective with us and our viewers. Pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you very much once again, and take care of yourselves and your families. To my viewers also, and appeal to all of you once again, I've been repeating myself every day. We are going through an unprecedented crisis. Please stay at home if you can. But if you step outside, double mask yourself, maintain physical distancing, and keep washing your hands at regular intervals. These are basic precautions we should be taking to protect ourselves and our families from this deadly infection. So take care of yourselves and your families, and thank you very much for your time.